We are no longer in a world that is being driven primarily by globalization. We are now in a world that's being driven by state capitalism. Increasingly, the most powerful economic actors in the world are the governments, are the states. They're different types of states. They have different types of views of how long they should be in the economy, how transparent they should be about it, what exactly their long-term role should be, but that is a shift. Now, this shift has been coming for a long time, even while globalization was becoming more ascendant. Started 30 years ago, 35 years ago, creation of OPEC, the oil shock, and the ascendance of national oil corporations. Then, over the last 20 years, the rise of the BRICS, the rise of emerging markets, and with it, the rise of state-owned enterprises and privately owned national champions connected to those governments. Then 5 years ago, the rise of sovereign wealth funds on the institutional investor side. Now, sovereign wealth funds have been around with us for decades, but there was no term sovereign wealth fund until 5 years ago because of their increasing importance in the global economy at that point. And then 6 months ago, in my view, the tipping point. 6 months ago, when globalization was increasingly not on the rise, but was increasingly being challenged by state capitalism, and that was, of course, when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. Because the beginnings of the global recession led to this extraordinary rise of these new capitals of capital around the world, whether it is Abu Dhabi instead of Dubai, or Beijing instead of Shanghai, or Washington instead of New York, where stimulus, regulatory policy, bailouts meant that winners and losers were going to be determined by government actors. So over the last 20, 30 years, we're very familiar with European farmers that aren't productive but are getting bailed out in Europe because they have political influence, and so you have mountains of butter and lakes of milk that are not particularly consumed or necessary. And we've all pointed that out as potential waste, but it was good for the farmers. In the United States, we're going to see mountains of SUVs. We're going to see lakes of ethanol. And I'm not suggesting that this is more or less of a problem. It depends on whether or not you benefit from those subsidies or lack thereof. But the real point is you better understand what Washington is doing, because they're the ones that are going to determine who the winners and losers are. When Obama came out last month and said that we in the United States are facing economic catastrophe if we do not get the stimulus right, as a political scientist, I read the flip side of that, which is, doesn't matter what the banks do, doesn't matter what the plans are that come from the automotive companies, does not matter how many additional hundreds of thousands of people are laid off or not by different companies in different sectors. If Washington doesn't get it right, we've got serious trouble. So your risk factors are not Wall Street. They are surely not Main Street. They are K Street. And that's what we need to pay attention to.